It's okay, it's not broken. As much as I thought it was going to be. Alrighty. Come on down, folks. How are we going outside? Rob. Right here, the whale seat, sir. You can sit wherever. Tim. Come on in, folks. Love it. Did you fix it? Yeah. Okay, good. We don't even use it, so it's fine. No, it's fine. Alrighty. You good? Chris, are we live on YouTube? Okay. Is the ATO watching? All right. All right. I'm going to stand over here. Is that good? Where do you want me to stand, Chris? Here's good? It's too bright, though. No, I'm joking. All right. Francis, can you do the clicky thing? So before we begin, just hold. Yeah, we'll leave it. Oh, right at the end. Let's go all the way back to the start. This is like Tarantino. You're going to see the presentation like Tenet, then we're going to explain it. Yeah, this is planned. Well done, Mark. It's not like you've been running another conference today. Anyway, welcome everyone to the June Oz DeFi Association events for Sydney. Come on in, folks. Grab some food and drinks if you've just arrived. Before we begin, I just need to pay our respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of the nation on which we stand, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and future. What we're going to do today is this. So we've opened the doors. Check. We've got drinks, food, check. We're going to do some updates really quickly and get to some presentations. We're only running 5 minutes behind, but that's okay. I'm not panicking. But we've got some great presentations like Blockdaemon, Block Earner. There's a panel talking about some real world stuff that's happening. KWM are going to regale us with some great stories about TradFi versus DeFi. And then there's a few community updates from CloudTech, from Tim Lee's here talking about some meme global stuff. And then we've got a great presentation right at the end before we go for drinks and networking. This is going to be one of those events which is much more about the networking. So we're going to try to tightly pack this to about an hour. We'll see how we go. All right, let's go to the next slide. This is just quick updates about what's been happening around the world of our space. So the last event, as you can see on screen here, we had Stables. We had a panel from Stacks and the stuff that they're building on Bitcoin, which is really great, and Alibaba Cloud and others. So next slide. There's a replay of this as well. You can watch it on YouTube. Okay, Oz DeFi Melbourne. It was a sweatbox there, but it was really great, and we're sorting out the aircon there, so all good, Rob. But it was a really great event at ANNG Gallery, so look out for the stuff that they're going to be doing because really great venue, a lot of cool NFT stuff in a really cool immersive room. Apparently, Liam does meditation there sometimes, so if you want to join in on that, you can. And there's a DJ booth. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I missed out on that, so next time. Perth ran an event, so HBAR, Hedera, Ronan, the crew, that was really great over there. I am heading over there at the end of the month on 28th. If anyone is around, wants to join me, feel free. Yes, sir. Yes, I'll see you there, Blake. Okay, next one. We were very lucky to have the main man himself, Raoul Powell from Real Vision, join us on our shores. Thank you for the lights. He is so much taller in real life. Apparently, it says on his profile he's 6'1", because I saw him and I'm like, is that Raoul Powell? And I looked him up and it said 6'1". I'm like, okay, this guy's taller than that. And I don't want to make that mistake and say, hi, Raoul. And he's like, who are you talking about? I'm just another person. But yeah, so really cool event, really nice guy, a lot of great insights. There's a video that Chris and I did for that one. So hopefully Real Vision and Club Devin will put that out. Club Devin is a decentralized wine club. So really cool stuff there. Let's go to the next one. It's Blockchain Week, so many of you are here for that, so thank you for joining us. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there. One of the biggest pieces of news was, apart from Simon stepping down at Blockchain Australia, it's passed on to Amy Rose, and she's going to lead us into the future. They're changing their name. Blockchain is becoming more mainstream, so it's now the Digital Economy Council of Australia. So it brings in the Telstra, the MasterCard, the many other groups that are going to be part of this space. So this is really exciting times in the adoption curve for blockchain tech. Next one. We'll skip the AI stuff for now. That's fine. We use an AI tool, next one, to do some things. I used this one today. So this is something, because I was running a fintech event and they wanted to talk about blockchain. I'm like, I've got to talk about AI. I had to, go back to that last one. I had all this information, and this is a tool that we built at NotCentralised. I had all this information about all the different speakers, what they wanted to speak about, and we used AI to come up with what are questions based on the prep sessions and all that kind of stuff. AI is being used to do mundane tasks, but it can do some really cool reasoning stuff as well. So if anyone wants to talk about that, how we're using it for Oz DeFi, how you can use it as well, please shout out. You'll see Arturo on the panel later on, but just always bother Arturo. That's my mantra. Next. And we're going to, before we get to the presentations, we are here in the amazing Stone and Chalk. They've been our home for a good year and a half, and I think it's just been, we're just so gracious of the support that they provide. Alex over here with the events, Lucinda as well, the community manager, and a few words from Lucinda.
Hi, how is everyone tonight? Good? Okay, fantastic. Okay, I would like to say that I'm as well rehearsed as Mark, but I'm not. My skills are definitely still getting there. So what I'm just going to do is tell you a little bit about Stone and Chalk and kind of what we do here. So I am Lucinda. I am the Startup Success and Community Manager here at the Startup Hub for Stone and Chalk, which is a bit of a mouthful. For those who don't know, we are the largest innovation community with 4 hubs nationally in Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide. We support over 250 startups and scale-ups, bolstering the innovation ecosystem. So one of the ways we support that is we support tech startups and scale-ups with a physical home in our hub. So within our co-working kind of space and private office suites, we take away the office admin so you can focus on the growth of your startup or scale-up. We also work with investors via community activation, capital raising awareness, and bespoke introductions. So when it's time to raise, we can definitely help with the kind of all of that suite and breaking down what is needed. We also work with corporates on their innovation agenda. So we have a specific program called Venture Connect to source, curate, and introduce the right startup within our community suited to the corporate investments and partnership mandates. And then lastly, we work very closely with government and Austrade to assist teams who are at the scale-up stage. So when they're either ready to expand into international markets or whether they are headquartered abroad, we kind of help them enter the Australian market through a kind of soft launch pad for their local expansion plans into the APAC region. So we also work with other industry partners like Mark and the decentralized team. I think I've screwed that up. Is that the not centralized? Not centralized Oz DeFi team. And so we host their monthly meetups here, and it's fantastic to kind of work with Mark and his team and other partners in the industry just to watch the ecosystem thrive. So please come and see me after if you're interested in becoming a resident, or you can find this lovely pamphlet with my face on it. It's got a QR code on the back of it to scan on how to connect with us as well. That's all from me. I think I'm handing it over to Francis here. That's you to kind of take over from there. But thanks, guys.
Hi, guys. So for those who haven't met before, I'm Francis. I'm the New South Wales chapter lead for Oz DeFi. So I'll take us through the rest of our agenda and be the timekeeper for the rest of this evening. So next up, we've got Alex Kim from Blockdaemon, who will take us through their MPC wallet solution.
Thank you. Next slide. Great to be here. It's my first time in Sydney. I've been to Melbourne a couple of times, but this is my first time in Sydney. Love it. Originally from California now, and split time between California and Korea. Our APAC team is actually based in Singapore. There are a couple of my colleagues right here in attendance today. Just wanted to go through MPC technology in more detail, I guess, in some ways. Pretty sure everybody's heard of MPC by now. How many people who have not heard of MPC before? See? No. Oh, there are a few people who don't know about MPC. That's great. So Blockdaemon, we actually don't have an official way of saying it. I think people with computer science background will probably say Blockdaemon because, you know, we're used to daemon servers in the background. And that's what the name implies. We're in the background doing infrastructure for the decentralized world with the blockchain. So next slide, please. This is a marketing slide. We do a lot of work with fairly large customers, whether they're crypto natives, exchanges around the world, global exchanges, or also TradFis. In fact, some of the top banks are our biggest customers, as well as they're also investors in our company. And we also have liquidity providers as our customers. And so we do a lot of work, but mostly for institutions, large customers. Not sure if this is 2Gen or DeFi for this slide, but that's what we do. That's where we make our money. Next slide, please. So B2B2C blockchain. So our customers are all B2B. And what we have is Blockdaemon OS. We have 3 pillars in our product line. The first one is wallet. We have a few flavors of the wallet. One is a totally custodian type of wallet that you can have it on-prem. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Another one is really just a basic building block for MPC technology, so you can build your own wallet. So that's how we started the wallet business. And then on the nodes and API side, we have obviously dedicated nodes, shared nodes. I guess we also provide different APIs that you can take advantage of. Some are actually for your degens, and some are free to get to a certain level, and then obviously after that we charge you, but you can definitely try that on our website. And staking, we also provide a lot of validators for staking, and provide public validators, white label validators, plus staking API, staking reporting API, and we also provide liquid staking and restaking. So there's a lot of flavors of staking that we're providing as well. So the next slide here is what is MPC? Multi-party computation, you probably heard of it. About 4 years ago or so, maybe 5 years ago, we talked a lot about what is MPC versus then quite popular multisig. I don't think we really talk about that so much these days. I think there's some obvious advantages of using MPC because it's really, as we'll realize afterwards, that it's a really providing only a single signature at the end, so you don't have to worry about smart contracts or gas fees that you have to worry about with multisig. And so I'm not going to go through a slide with multisig versus MPC. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that MPC is the way to go. And I just wanted to describe a little bit about what multi-party computation is about. It really just allows multiple parties to compute a function, do analytics, computation, without disclosing their inputs. So your input is secret, but the computation that you do is proven to be trustworthy, and that's what this is all about. And so it's distributed computation. So degen, distributed computing computation, I think I guess it works really well with MPC. In fact, we have other companies that focus really on just distributed computation and distributed privacy, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Eliminates the risk of single point of failure, and that's the beauty of having MPC with shared nodes. So you have to physically attack all 3 different nodes and get the key shares that that you need in order to combine to make a private key. So back in the 80s, this is how long ago the MPC actually started. I think it was Andrew Yang who started the whole MPC concept with Garble circuit. And since then, it's evolved quite a bit. But in the last, 3+ decades, it was mostly in the research lab in universities. And in 2008 is when it first went live commercially. So the team that actually did that wrote a seminal paper called MPC Goes Live, and really talks about how MPC can be used in commercial applications. And that commercial application, the first one was Danish sugar beet auction. So for those of you who don't know what sugar beet looks like, that's the picture of it. So in that paper, there's a professor named Professor Ivan Damgaard, who worked very closely with the founder of MPC, who is Andrew Yang, and they still work pretty closely together. And Ivan Damgard, why he's important is he's the founder, one of the co-founders of a company that took this MPC to commercialization. Also founded the previous company that I used to work for that got acquired by Blockdaemon. So it's a long history, but that's how it started. The applications are, I guess, enormous in this day and age when data privacy or privacy preserving data collaboration is being used quite a bit in AI now. In fact, also data privacy is being used by a lot of large um, data collecting companies. I don't want to name them, but basically they have to obfuscate personally identifiable data, and that's what MPC is used for a lot. And also in crypto, it's key security and management. And it's the field of threshold cryptography. You've probably not seen a lot of this in in your daily life, but you've at DGens, you probably heard of ZK rollups and ZK proofs and whatnot. And ZK proof is actually a special case of MPC. Okay, so next slide, please. So threshold cryptography, it starts with secret sharing, called Shamir's secret sharing, where a private key is split into multiple shards or shares. Now, we take that one concept of splitting key into multiple shards, and then it goes into multi-party computation, which actually does a lot of computation analytics, there's algorithms and protocols based around this, and it computes across encrypted shares to generate an output, okay? And then what's important here is that these key shares never leave their devices. If you put them on MPC nodes, these key shares never leave their devices. So the only thing that leaves their devices is actually the partial signatures that are generated when you have to do digital signing in order to do a transaction. So that's why it makes it very secure. And then also, there's some thresholds you can put together here where it could be not all the nodes have to be available in order to sign a transaction. So you can define 2 out of 3 configuration, or 3 out of 3 is, that means you have to have every node available to do the signing. But if it's 2 out of 3, you only need 2 out of 3 nodes to be available in order to sign a transaction. So that's another differentiator that some people use. And so Blockdaemon and MPC. So as I was a little just talking about earlier, Sepior is the company I used to work for. It was a Danish company, and we got acquired about 2 years ago. The entire team, the cryptography team, and some of the business development people like me have come over, and we've been there for almost 2 years now. So it's been a world leader from the beginning. We've been around since 2008, in fact, because the original team that took MPC live is still with us. About half the team came over from the original team of 2008, and half of them went to key management, half of them went to privacy preserving analytics. So that's why you have all the key management personnel from that particular team to come over and founded a company called Sepior in 2014 in Denmark. They wrote a bunch of papers that are all published. We have our own algorithms and protocols that are all published for extra security. So if you have peer reviews, and you can actually have more security that way. So we like to call ourselves OGs of MPC, and we're still here. And we also co-founded MPC Alliance, and we now have about 60 members in the MPC Alliance. We promote our MPC use cases around the world. We have some big names. You can probably check it out, and just type in MPC Alliance. You'll see some of the members there that are large and small. Finally, I just want to leave you here with a couple of products we promote. One is called Build-A-Vault. I talked a little bit about how people can use this particular product, Build-A-Vault, which is really a SDK that you can build your own wallet with. And so we just give you all the cryptographic tools and libraries that you can use. And on the right-hand side, institutional wallet, that's really used by a lot of the larger banks and custodians who we want to hold all the key shares on-prem. So it's not wallet as a service where Blockdaemon would hold a key share. It's really licensed software. You load it in your own environment, and you keep all the key shares in secret, obviously very secure places. So that's what they do. And I guess that's it. Thank you.
Maybe time for 1 or 2 questions for Alex. Anyone got any questions here? I think we've got one on the side.
Thanks. Great talk. I just wanted to ask, obviously Blockdaemon isn't the only MPC provider in the ecosystem. How does your product, how is it different versus, say, Fireblocks, for example?
Yeah, good question. Fireblocks, again, as I just said, Fireblocks is a wallet as a service, right? So they typically hold a key share or two. Not sure exactly what the configuration is in some cases. We don't hold any key shares. So we give the software license, and if you're a large tier 1 bank custodian, you install it in your own AWS or your own data center, and you hold everything in your own environment. So you're in full control of all your key shares as a custodian, as it should be, right?
Okay, thank you very much. So just to keep things moving, we've got our next presentation, which is from Block Owner, and I believe we have Charlie, who's the founder. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. I'm a co-founder of Block Owner. I'm sorry, but I was informed about this presentation like 1 hour ago. My colleague James supposed to present this one, so he rugged me last minute. So my background, you might know Synthetics, one of the pioneers of the DeFi space. I started my blockchain career in 2017 as head of product in Synthetics. Prior to that, boring telco in different countries. But I was always interested in payments and technology space. My background is engineering. So in 2017, 18, 19, I saw the proliferation of DeFi space, DeFi summer, and building consumer products in my previous career. I was quite excited to introduce this technology with large population and the masses. And in 2021, we launched Block Owner. So Block Owner, we positioned Block Owner like a next generation fintech. So the idea was exchanges in Australia or in globally generally are usually like token shops, more about speculation and the asset purchases. And banks are too slow to do anything specific on blockchain technology and fintech space. We wanted to create a hybrid product where basically we can introduce the BT and the utility of blockchain, not only tokens but other items of blockchain to the masses. So this is how Block Owner was born. Block Owner is backed by Coinbase ventures, Framework ventures, Long Cash, so well-capitalized business. And like initial place we launched in Australia, but we are eyeing basically expanding overseas as well. Next slide, please. One of the proud moments like last week was very important for me and for the team. On our 3rd year, last week we actually got 2 awards. One from FinTech Australia, Excellence in Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Technology. And also V-Money, the famous budgeting app. I'm a big fan of V-Money. So we got the Consumer Lending Innovation Product this award with our crypto loan product, which I will talk a little bit. And you might know Block Owner from news. We are quite famous in the news recently. We had an unfortunate case with ASIC. So I can give you a little bit founder background. So when we launched our product in early 2022, we literally launched the product around the same time with all this Luna Terra crash, 3 Capital, everything. And initial product range we had was a DeFi access product where we were basically allowing access to, Aave and compound type of products, as well as a fixed yield product pretty much offered by all other exchanges in Australia. I don't know why, but ASIC picked us as a test case, and they took us to court for both of our products, DeFi Access as well as our fixed yield product. We didn't have any customer complaints or losses or any exposure to these events and activities, but I guess they tried to test the borders of the current licensing regime. And we lost part of the product, like part of the case, which is the fixed yield product. So it's found as MIS product, but we won the other part, which is the DeFi access solution. I believe we kind of went to this court case representing all the industry, because literally almost all products are very important for the industry's growth and innovation, I believe. And recently there was an update as well. The court found us on the product that we lost the case, found us basically we did everything we could possibly do, getting a legal opinion from a tier 1 law firm, also prepared our own risk assessment policies. So we acted basically honestly and carefully, and for that reason we don't need to pay a fine, which is a big win for us. Thank you very much. The other win also comes from the misleading press release of ASIC. Unfortunately, when the regulator sues you, the media outlets immediately basically get that news and use the narratives that is shared by them. So there was a misleading basically copy on their press release, and it actually impacted our business severely, and we proved this one to the court. And basically ASIC needs to pay the legal costs of block owner for the penalty hearing as well. So another second win. But thank you very much. Too early to celebrate. There might be an appeal case as well. So there are 25 more days for ASIC to consider their decision. But hopefully we will have a friendly approach. So did I click to something? This was the next slide, I guess, right? Yeah, okay, awesome. So currently our product offers 3 different solutions. As I mentioned before, next-gen fintech we wanted to build. There is spot trading functionality, which is basically what all other players does in the market. We have DeFi access product, which we won, and we will build more capability on that one. And the other one is a unique solution that we brought to Australian market, which is crypto-backed loans. So crypto-backed loans works in an interesting way. So you don't want to sell your asset. You are bullish about Bitcoin and Ethereum, but you need some liquidity. So basically we provide you that liquidity without selling your asset. So you can access up to 33% of your collateral value as an AUD loan. And it's not a margin product, literally hits to your bank account, and use cases are numerous. You could basically use it for a mortgage deposits or renovation money. There is a lot of use cases from our customers, even buying properties or buying businesses. We have a various use cases and customer types. The loan ranges from literally $100, probably test accounts, up to $1 million. We wrote loans so far, and currently sitting on an average 30-40K range, which is a great number. And the good thing with loan customers, when they come, they are usually high net worth customers, and they bring their trading volume as well. So you can see we launched the loan product late December, and currently, as of I guess June numbers, first couple of weeks, it exceeds 50% of our revenue. So it's a quite successful product, and loyalty is amazing with our loan users as well. Next slide, please. So the strategy for us is basically divide and conquer. So we will be using this unique selling point of our platform, which is the loan product, to acquire new users, because it's a very competitive market, as you guys know. This product allows you in 24 hours access to capital in AUD directly to your bank account. and currently very competitive rates starting from 9.76% comparison rate, which is much better than a unsecured or secured loan that you can get in the market. The goal from here, like what is the long-term vision? Long-term vision is basically writing first mortgage check of Australia in crypto-backed loans, but we have a journey on that one. This product is licensed, so we have a license authorization, a credit license authorization through our partner Mortgage Direct, and hopefully we are friends with ASIC on this case. Next slide, please. The other product is obviously we appreciate demand to different types of tokens. So next strategy for us is basically having a deeper liquidity and deeper connection with platforms to offer more spot solutions to customers. So hopefully before your meme coin hits Binance, you will be able to buy it from us. Next slide. And this is a little gift to OzDeFi community. So our $25 referral program. Please join us and download the application. I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're running a little bit behind schedule. Will you be at the networking afterwards? Yes. Okay, maybe if you've got a question, you can catch Charlie after. Okay, so up next, we've got a panel with a very special announcement. So can we have Tim from Redbelly, Tura from NotCentralised, and we've got Brooke from Monoova.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Hello.
Blockchain, but on the microphone. Testing, testing. Yep, I'm good. I thought that we'd start with a very simple chart. Very simple. Okay, so let me just stand here because I'll start with a bit of an introduction to what we're looking at, and then we'll talk about as a group what it is that we're doing together and how it works and so forth. Now, I always have these grand visions over how things go. They don't always play out that way, but in this case, I actually think that it will. What we're showing here is a way in which the customer is not the person. The customer is actually the fintech if you're a blockchain business. We want to change the way in which fintechs use or design tech stacks when they're transferring value and they're offering, let's call it financial services. So what we see here is effectively a fintech that has a specific stack. Let's just say that this fintech, they do car leases, right? So own a bunch of cars. You might even have people that become your customers that own cars, and you want to facilitate the contractual management of how you lease that car and how you capture the revenue for that lease. So that's a tokenization project right there, because you can tokenize those leases. But guess what? People don't want to deal with blockchain. They don't want to have a MetaMask wallet or whatever it is, because it's actually quite complicated. They don't have an issue with actually trusting the fintech. Most people trust companies that they deal with. Otherwise, they wouldn't deal with them. So all of these concepts that we built in the Web3 space about self-sovereignty, about self-custody, about selective disclosure, we're not applying them to people. We're applying them to businesses. So in this case, what this fintech has as a choice is to either build that entire stack, which is typically what they do already, and then they host this stack on AWS or Azure, and they need to manage redundancies and fail-safes and all these complexities, which are actually quite onerous when you're building financial infrastructure. Or they leverage off a blockchain. So in this scenario, what we're showing is that fintech manages their stack. They have SSO, which effectively is identity. They have their little React app. They have their backend APIs, their databases, and so forth. But what Layer C does is that it enables connectivity to a blockchain, in this case, Redbelly. And instead of saving all of this financially sensitive information that they hold from their customers, which is typically what blockchain designs require you to do, what you do is that you store on-chain a bunch of hashes. Imagine that you have an ERC20 contract. This ERC20 stores balances for everyone. And they're basically telling you that many people say that it's confidential or it's private because there's no identity linked to a wallet. There are billion-dollar companies out there where their sole purpose, the only reason they exist, is to link identity to wallet. So I think that betting on privacy under that premise is pretty rich. Furthermore, you're a company that needs to be audited. When you get audited, other people get involved. So there's a full supply chain, let's say, of companies that get involved and see this data. They see the identity, the link to the wallet. 2 years down the line, they get hacked. All of a sudden, everybody sees everything. So the use of confidentiality, the use of zero-knowledge proofs in this case, enables you, or enables the fintech, effectively to store all of that data on-chain, but as hashes. And then they can use the magic of ZKs for selective disclosure. For example, they can say, well, I do have at least X amount of money in this wallet. Or this contract does contain this clause without disclosing that information. So if, for example, ASIC comes or the ATO comes or whoever comes and they want to do a proper audit, what happens is that they can say, well, look, just look at this set of hashes. This is the trace of all of my transactions. And here's the proof that my claims are true. It changes the way in which fintechs are able to, well, not only fintechs, but businesses are able to offer auditability. Auditability is the basis for almost all compliance, but it's really, really, really difficult to apply in the current tech stacks. But actually quite easy to do if you have a blockchain with confidentiality. Now, all this is a bit of a, it's quite complex. There's a lot of moon math behind it. And there's a lot of wallet management. But at the end of the day, because the customers, they trust the fintech can actually manage the wallets for them. And all they need to do is log in with their standard, Gmail account or whatever it is that they need to do, and they can apply two-factor authentication, just the standard way that people do. And this all works really nicely up until a point. And the fact is that everybody pays bills in fiat. They actually need to have a bank account. I know it's sensitive because not everybody gets banked in crypto, but anyway, just to roll with it. You need to have a streamlined connectivity to the traditional banking system if you're going to build a product that adds value to your customers. I'm not talking about changing the world. Now, if you have enough money to change the world, go for it. But if you're an entrepreneur that needs to generate revenue, you need to get paid, and you need to add value to your customers. So you actually need to integrate to these systems that people use and that they want to use as well. So that's where Monoova comes in. And I'm going to simplify the concept of a stablecoin. Imagine that you have a bank account. Okay, so fintech has a bank account here. And as money comes into this bank account, we mint a token, or we represent that event on chain. That event could be that we increase a balance. We're effectively using the blockchain as an accounting system that shows you what's actually happening at the bank account level. And all of a sudden, this token can be used to be transferred across the ecosystem that the fintech is effectively building. You can do all of the segregation of accounts, all of the segregation of money, all these complexities that are really, really cumbersome to do in the traditional banking system. We could do at the blockchain level. Monoova enables us to, through APIs, to represent what is happening. As money comes in, an API gets called, we mint the token, magic happens. When the customer wants to pay a bill, they just send the money out. They burn the token, or the fintech, the stack burns the token, and we're all good. That is literally a stable coin, but it's a stable coin with a very, very, very specific use case. It's not a stable coin that allows you to send money overseas, or that allows you to, do anything that is outside of the realm of the services that the fintech want to offer. So let's talk about policy and regulation then. Fintech is regulated, or if it needs to be, right? It's KYC'd if it needs to be. It is a fully controlled environment, confidential environment on this public blockchain. So I'd love if you could explain what Monoova does in more detail in this scenario.
So, I mean, what Monoova is here to do is essentially to make the money move, right? So we are a payment service provider, and we automate payments for businesses. We specialize in real-time payments. So we receive, manage, and pay out funds, which can be done in seconds. Okay, and it's all through our customizable APIs.
So that point about seconds, it's quite important.
It's not
I think that it's one of the biggest complaints that people that don't like blockchain have about blockchain. Payments in Australia are actually quite efficient. Things move in seconds. Programmability, though, is different. So what we're trying to achieve here is offer that extra step so that we can find those use cases that already exist in the market. They just don't exist in blockchain space. And therefore, they're much more expensive to build, to run, and to compose. I will talk about that soon, because first we need to listen to this gentleman here, Tim, and tell us about why Redbelly is important to have within this ecosystem and what, really what it does.
It's a big question, actually. Can you hear me? Does that work? Cool. So just a bit of a history lesson. Redbelly's been around since 2016 from the University of Sydney and the CSIRO. The reason why I'm here is I was previously the CEO of a company called Blockdaemon, which is a venture studio in Australia. Did a bunch of cool stuff over the last 6 or so years. We came across this technology, which is essentially an extremely fast and secure blockchain, but it achieves something that no other blockchain consensus ever has, which is this concept of formal verification, which means it's been mathematically proved to be correct in every possible state, regardless of network size. So it really lends itself very well to real-world assets. So for these sorts of assets in TradFi and traditional markets to find their way onto a blockchain, at a technology level, we need absolute certainty that a transaction will be committed. So we can't have this sort of split, one index in one country, one index in another, and then it branches and comes back together in a few seconds. That can't happen in a high-frequency trading environment. So at a base level, it's a very, very impressive technology. But what we did a tripartite acquisition with the CSIRO and University of Sydney and Blockdaemon, and we came together and created a new company called Redbelly Network. And so since then, what we've built is the EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, on top of this consensus, and we've implemented this idea of compliant asset tokenization. So we're using zero-knowledge proofs and verifiable credentials to prove that when people join our network, that they've done an off-chain identity check without giving up their PII. And so from an RWA issuer perspective, it's super interesting because they know they're not doing business with a criminal, or at least someone who's been checked on a sanction list, right? And so as we build these credentials, we found that TradFi's licensed fintechs and institutions, they're much more likely to tokenize and do business on a chain like Redbelly because they don't have the counterparty risk that they would on a traditional permissionless blockchain. And if there is an issue, there's the rule of the law that can still get involved to sort that out. So that's all good and well in blockchain, but you still need backwards compatibility. So in terms of traditional fiat, obviously what Monoova does is instant payments. we need to make sure that we're able to bring TradFi businesses from where they are to where the ultimate goal is from a tokenization perspective. And we've had a huge amount of traction. So far, we've signed $73 billion of tokenized RWA. So in terms of straight RWA contracts, we have more TVL than Ethereum. So we just launched our testnet last week, and now we're launching mainnet in a few months, and that's why we're here.
So why is finality important there?
Because blockchains are slow. So Redbelly, you know, it's when it was just a Bitcoin algorithm, it was doing 660,000 TPS across 10 different jurisdictions around the world. So it's crazy fast. Running the EVM, it's doing about 10,000 TPS. It's so fast that MetaMask literally doesn't know what to do with it. Like, we've got a whole tooling problem with Redbelly because the space is used to doing business with dial-up, essentially. So compliance, finality, we need high frequency trading. We need these assets to be tokenized, and we need derivative markets to make decisions on them in real time. So it's actually more about scalability than finality. Like, we get finality for free with this consensus, but as you add more assets and as you add more transactions, you can't give up finality. So Redbelly actually sort of scales in performance as more nodes are added, and it doesn't compete with each other like other networks do.
So that's fantastic that you get it for free. There's an actual dollar value assigned to the lack of finality. I would argue that the ASX currently has around $40 billion worth of collateral because of the issue of finality. It's a T+2 finality. It's not finality, quickly, right? And the problem when you don't have instant finality is that things go wrong, which is why you need to have a lot of capital just sitting there in case something goes wrong, that the financial cost of that error is covered. Instant finality effectively means that that capital can be, dissipated across the economy and properly used. Now, in terms of the bank accounts, what type of connectivity can Monoova offer, and what type of services do customers currently use, and what is the toolkit, let's say, that existing fintechs leverage off in terms of the services that are given to them?
We connect to all payment rails in Australia. I can see that you've mentioned PID.
I did not change that.
I did ask him to change a few things, but that's okay. So as I said, our focus is real-time payments and to be able to move money in seconds. But essentially, we do connect to all payment rails in Australia. So we connect to the MPP. We've got PayID, OSCO. We have Pay2. So we're one of the first adopters for production for Pay2. BPay, we do card payments as well. So that's all payment rails essentially in Australia.
So just to give you a little idea, I could effectively create PayID with a specific reference number. I could then take that reference number. As soon as money hits with that reference number to the account, I know exactly which wallet I attribute the tokens that I'm minting based on the influx of capital. So that's just an idea for developers to understand how you effectively synchronize a bank account together with a set of smart contracts and start creating that really nice interoperability between the magic of blockchain and the existence of a banking system. The last thing that I want to say is the importance of a separation between information or clean information and the blockchain. And this is why I've added these two little slots here. So in the way that we designed Layer C, this information typically lives on chain. So you'll have balances, you match those balances to wallets and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, this is the commercially sensitive information. So what ZKs enable you to do is to store that information off-chain, keep it safe. And then when you interact with the blockchain itself will check that the interactions are compliant. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please reach out afterwards, I'm being told. But yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Okay, guys. Next up, we've got Hannah and Jazz from KWM.
Hey folks, so if you're outside, make sure you grab some drinks and food and pizza, and there's plenty of chairs back in here, so it'd be great if you could, come back in, folks. Yeah, thank you so much, and over to Hannah and Jazz.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, several of the presentations today have touched on this intersection between finance and blockchain technology. Ultimately, though, what you're really looking at is this intersection between what we'll call TradFi and DeFi. And it's quite interesting when you look at it as a whole, because TradFi and DeFi are somewhat opposite ends of the spectrum. TradFi involves banks, governments, centralized bodies, a lot of regulation and paper. DeFi, on the other hand, is really focused on democratization of access. It's focused on the technology first to actually enable that access. It's about providing this service to everyone, and realistically, you're not using paper. It's all about the tech itself. What we're going to touch on today, however, is the link between these two, where they've come from, and what this might mean going forward, because as we're building all of these new innovative ideas, it's sometimes good to understand the history of both and then how that actually can take us into the future. My name's Hannah Glass. I'm a senior associate at Wood Mallesons, large law firm. So yes, I technically sit in the banking and finance team, but my specialty is everything to do with fintech and really the intersection of technology and finance.
Hi everyone, my name is Jazz. I'm a solicitor in the team with Hannah at Wood Mallesons, and I cover a broad range of things across the banking practice, financial markets, derivatives, but I have a particular interest and specialty in DeFi, decentralized systems, and all of this kind of stuff, and also a lot of interest in the policy side of things as we develop out laws. So thanks for having us, and we're keen to talk to you about this stuff.
And so I think if you're going to start with any of this area, it's important to go back to a little document which is called a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Yes, the Satoshi white paper. And who's got access to the slides? No one is driving the slide. Ah, there we are. Awesome. Oh. So, thank you. The whole idea was this was a new form of money. Money without banks, without governments, money that couldn't be interfered with, because it came out of the global financial crisis. It came out of the collapse of one of the world's largest investment banks. It came out of highly speculative, rather innovative financial products, but had real world ramifications for people that resulted in them losing their homes. This was about making sure that people could have access to finance, that they weren't going to be subject to this same interference, and they were actually going to be able to participate in the financial economy. And at that time, TradFi kind of didn't care. I mean, it took 2 years for someone to even buy a pizza using this new form of money. But TradFi started to be interested a few years later, and they looked at it as a form of money. I mean, we started getting cartoons talking about whether or not you wanted gold or Bitcoin. But that didn't mean that it was about to become the new form of money then. Next slide. But what it did mean is that that world started to look into this. And it just started to look into what is money? How does it work? Do we already have a framework for what money could be? And what might it look like in this fully digitally enabled world? And that kicked off the bubble for Bitcoin. And unfortunately, what came out of that bubble was not using Bitcoin to buy more pizza. It was actually using Bitcoin to speculate on markets. And what we found was that people were not focusing on the actual asset and the tokenization itself, but the underlying infrastructure. And this is where TradFi decided to differentiate itself, and they came into the forum. And they said, there's something that we can do with this underlying infrastructure. We don't want this speculative asset sitting on the top, but we want to be able to access that same technology. And we ended up in this world of blockchain, not Bitcoin. We also ended up in the next slide. No, go back one. Yeah, oh yeah. Thank you. But what we also found is that the people who were trying to implement this in the TradFi world didn't really understand it. There were either the people who were at the junior end of the spectrum who were bamboozled by the technology and freaked out by the possibility, and they sat there paralyzed, or there were those at the senior end of the spectrum who kind of didn't care and just wanted to go out for lunch. And then we tried to meet in the middle, where it just became a buzzword. And this is where we entered into the world of blockchain for X. We had blockchain for dogs. We had blockchain for your dentist. We had blockchain for prescriptions for healthcare. We had blockchain for property rights. We had blockchain for commodities. We had blockchain for all manner of banking and financial instruments. And almost none of the projects that were developed at this time are still in existence today. And in a way, that was kind of a good thing, because from a technological perspective, it was still pretty early. And the same innovations that we have now, which have arisen as a result of DeFi itself, weren't in existence. And so we weren't able to actually manage data in the way that we can now. We weren't able to actually use things like zero-knowledge proofs. We couldn't preserve privacy appropriately. We were still stuck with pseudonymous blockchains. And no matter how much we tried to create permission systems, it just didn't work.
So this was around the time when we started getting pretty rabid innovation and experimentation, in my view. 2019, our very own Synthetics in Australia did their liquidity mining program. Arguably the first real event that started off DeFi summer, which happened around mid-2020 with Compound doing its liquidity mining program. You know, things like Uniswap doing its airdrop, BNB chain launching, the massive amount of food tokens, Yam, the rise and fall of Yam. It was a terrible year in terms of everything else, but it's pretty funny. And you can see that in the context of the comic, we still have a lot of hype, a lot of bubbles, a lot of mini bubbles in 2020. You had things like Sushi Swap coming in, vampire attacks on all of the many protocols that were coming in within months of each other, Taproot coming in at the end of 2021, enabling a lot of things that we've only really just seen come into development end of last year / this year, such as ordinals and inscriptions on Bitcoin. But I think all of this kind of coalesced with just a broad theme across, 1-2 years, that there was a long-term building period after the ICO bubble popped. And I think this is the moment that it really paid off the first time, because we were able to see the consequence of having all of these composable primitives coming into the system, coming into the market, and people just experimenting with them and building all of these cool things. A lot of them didn't work out, and a lot of them did. And it's just really interesting to see that in a market that is just so open, and just an open representation of what fintech is, because people can just build and do whatever they want. And of course, at the end of 2020, we had the update to the Ethereum roadmap, which is a big one. Can we go next? Oh, we're on the next slide. Oh, it's ahead of me. So 2022, also not a great year. We had Luna, 3AC, FTX, and I think it was personally a very difficult year for me, because it was the year that I met Mark and Arturo. So it was rough. The Ethereum merge.
It wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
There were some great times at the beginning of the year. It just sort of went slightly pear-shaped at the end.
I met Mark at the beginning of the year, so it was in March. It was actually at the Immutable after party for Blockchain Week. Very memorable. very memorable. Bit of an anniversary. So this was a big year for NFTs. Massive consumer retail focus on this. Collectibles, Bored Apes hit 128 ETH in May, I think it was. And then we kind of had all of the things that happen. Ethereum merge halfway in between, which was just the culmination of many years of building. Originally, I think it was supposed to take only a couple of years, but we got there in the end.
But I think what's interesting about that is it looks at, again, we're focusing on what does the tech do and how does the tech actually enable providing different products and services. And the idea behind the merge was actually how can we ensure that Ethereum is able to fulfill its promise to be the world's computer. And it's not just the world's computer for the decentralized world, it's the world's computer more broadly. And when you look at all of the different projects that are coming online and the standards that are being used, we are seeing a degree of convergence. And it actually doesn't matter whether you are a bank or a government or a small player in the marketplace. We are starting to see people build on a few different protocols with similar structures and similar systems, and actually that underlying work on the infrastructure is designed to facilitate that.
Yeah, I mean, we entered a quieter period again, and people just kind of hunkered down and kept building new and exciting products. That was off the back of the merge, off the back of many other protocols that had managed to launch in that time. Solana had a very big part to play in the NFT craze during 2022, and then as we've seen over the past few months, it's really come back and it's found a really strong spot in the market. But I think moving on to 2023, 2024, we see once again that quiet building phase is paying dividends, and you have protocols like Celestia, Eigenlayer, you have Ethereum continuing to build, just layer 2 protocols and zero knowledge proof implementation, really just improving month on month, year on year. And I personally see 2024 this year as crossing the Rubicon for the industry, where we have all of this amazing tech and all of these people building these things, and then we are getting rapidly shifting regulatory environments, political environments. At the beginning of the year, we finally had the Bitcoin ETF after a really, really long time, finally launching in January, and then very recently the Ethereum ETFs getting first stage approval in the States. So this is the point of convergence, I think, between the DeFi and the TradFi sides of the market.
But if we're looking at that point of convergence, I think the ETFs are a pretty fundamental part of it. The whole purpose behind an ETF is actually to bring people into this asset class who are otherwise unfamiliar with the technological aspects of it. It packages it up in a way that is accessible, and that maybe they're unfamiliar with it from the systems that they have in there, or simply just their own ability to access those particular facilities from a perhaps even a legal standpoint. What that actually did, though, is, as pretty much everyone in this room should know, it kind of impacted the price of Bitcoin, Ether, and every token in the market. That alone is indicative of the fact that there is not a disconnect between markets, traditional markets, and crypto and DeFi. They are intertwined. What was also really interesting is that Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, when he was interviewed in relation to the ETF, said, step one in the technological revolution in financial markets is the ETF. But step two is going to be the tokenization of every financial asset. It's not the ETF that is the endpoint. The ETF is the gateway. The ETF is bringing it into the next generation. The discussion around real-world assets and tokenization, if you take it at its heart, is actually a discussion of dematerialization. What's that? It's taking something that is not in electronic form and bringing it into electronic form. Typically, we've seen that in traditional markets with things like shares moving from physical certificates to actually assets on market. When that happened, there was a period of transition. There were physical pieces of paper that were locked in cages for certain markets to give you the right to the share. over time, no one looked what was in the cage, and you didn't know whether or not it might have actually disintegrated, but you knew you had the share because of the ledger. When we're tokenizing assets, it's the next iteration of that. It's again moving from a ledger in one form to a ledger in another form. But the nature of the asset itself is not necessarily just an entry in a ledger. It is actually something which is unique to you. It is rivalrous. When you hold that piece of information, no one else is able to hold it, is able to control it. It is a new way of thinking about assets, a new way of thinking about data. That's what's really powerful here. And it's powerful for crypto and it's powerful for DeFi, but even more so when you actually are able to take that same technological innovation and implement it into the traditional world. Because then we're actually able to take the next phase of our development in terms of financial markets. That's one part. The other part, which I think you might be familiar with, is the concept of where this all came from. Money. Except no one wants to be spending 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas anymore. You want to know exactly how much you are paying for that particular asset. That's why there are projects around central bank digital currencies and stablecoins. That's why they're so important to the ecosystem. It's not because we want to rely on governments, but it's because we want the safety, security, certainty that is provided by an asset moving as money that is stable. The interesting thing in terms of both of these is when you combine them together, you have what's known as delivery versus payment. The previous presentation was a brilliant example of the potential for this. But it's not just about what's happening in these rooms. It's not a DeFi conversation. It's actually TradFi. The Bank for International Settlements has 14 separate projects looking at central bank digital currencies. Most of them are cross-border. That's all about how does money move internationally. They all involve multiple central banks. One of them alone, Project Enbridge, involves 5 central banks and has 26 other parties and is growing. The whole purpose of this isn't about controlling access. It's actually about opening access and facilitating that next generation of finance. So where do we go to beyond 2024? To the moon? Maybe. But a few things before we get to the moon. We've spoken about digitization, but there's another part to it too, which is datafication. As we move into a world where we have digitized and dematerialized instruments, as we move into a world where the means by which we move instruments, by which we settle transactions is all integrated, there's a lot more information that we have. There's also a lot more information that we store. And as the sophistication of the technology increases, we're able to manage what we store, when we store it, and who has access to it. That's actually the power of using things like blockchain technology and zero-knowledge proofs. As we do that, we can actually do more with that information. We're not only moving from a digitization of money, but actually to that monetization of data. Not to sell it to a third party for marketing purposes, but to actually improve on the facilities and the services that are provided, to make markets more efficient, to make transactions more certain, to make them more effective. Now, for this to happen, there is a flip side too. Obviously, the whole premise of DeFi is we are moving to a world that is decentralized, that we have embedded regulation, that is open and accessible. The flip side of it is it hasn't quite happened. The conversation still revolves around things like regulation, the role of governments, the role of international bodies. So it's really about how do we bring the two together? And that's what the next phase is going to be. It's not about TradFi or DeFi. It's not about centralized or decentralized. It's actually how do the two work together so the tech works perfectly, up to the point at which it doesn't. And when it doesn't, we have a system where we can step out of the tech and make it work perfectly until the tech works perfectly again. This is about creating better efficiencies. It's not about tech purity. It's actually about making sure that markets, systems, and inclusion are facilitated. Not just in DeFi, not just in TradFi, but in finance as a whole.
Thank you.
Bit over schedule, but we're on the home stretch now. We've got a few quick community announcements. The first one coming from Rob from CloudTech.
Thank you. I appreciate that you're all kind of waiting to go back to the beers, but I made a few notes. I'm the CTO of the CloudTech Group. If you can believe it, I used to be a banker. Are you surprised about that? I've yet to drop the suits. I do own a pair of Jordans, which I will wear at one event at some point. I'm actually a no-code CTO, but I did install VS Code on my laptop. I'm actually joking. I did a long time ago, used to be an academic scientist. So long ago, I actually used Vi. Does anybody remember Vi? Yeah, okay, we've got a few people the same age as me. So I used to be a banker. I ran the stablecoin desk at NAB and built the stablecoin desk and issued an Aussie dollar stablecoin. Building technology at an Aussie major is very much like the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Does anybody remember Chernobyl? Are you old enough for that? So Chernobyl, it was reactor 4 that exploded. And the kind of really interesting thing to note about that is the number 4. There was 3 other reactors in Chernobyl. And working on technology at big banks is very much like trying to solve the problem of reactor 4 blowing up. The other 3 reactors still have to work because everybody needs to get paid and their ATM machines need to work. But you actually have to build around it and put a sarcophagus around reactor 4. So that was, and it's no different. All of the banks are the same. So that was the exciting part about building a stablecoin desk at NAB. And then in the end, the bank just got altitude sickness or vertigo or whatever it was and decided not to do it anymore. They decided to pivot to AI. Where have you heard that one before? And so I walked out of the door with the IP in my head and also with that gentleman over there who was the global head of traded markets for NAB as well. And we are in fact building a stablecoin business at CloudTech and also Katina. We're doing a joint venture. So at CloudTech, we're trying to elevate financial services on chain. So we're trying to do everything. We kind of think of it as kind of swap, send, store, and save. And that's the kind of 4 pillars of kind of CloudTech strategy. We want an exchange. We want to build a stablecoin business, which if you're a banker like me, you kind of think of that as a kind of a treasury operation. We are building a qualified custodian for digital assets in Australia, and we do have a license, and I'm going to come back to that later. And we also have an asset management business because we think that the real key here is real-world asset tokenization and actually doing delivery versus payment with stable coins and tokens of other things. I actually wanted to riff off a few things. Have I got a couple of minutes? Is that okay? 2 minutes. Okay, I wanted to riff off a couple of things that people said earlier. So I was really interested in 1634 in Hannah's presentation previously, was the tulip bubble in Amsterdam. Where are all tulips grown today? In Amsterdam. So it's interestingly enough that actually the economic activity that happened around the tulip bubble explosion actually continued to give economic growth to Holland for 400 years. It's like 400 years in a few years' time. And so we kind of see that. And then also anybody who's ever done operations or settled a transaction at a bank, it's very, very difficult to unsee when blockchain comes in, and particularly Bitcoin came in. And you just think, oh, actually, this is going to totally revolutionize every financial service. And that's why, in the end, I just had to decide to leave it and go and do it myself and build it myself. One final thing I wanted to say, I've been at Blockchain Week all week. Just wanted to give a word of warning. The ASIC commissioner was there yesterday, and he made it very, very clear. He said, some of you have got licenses, some of you have not. We will be coming to visit some of you, right? And so it is absolutely no question what they're going to do. There's going to be some test cases, because that's what they're going to do, because they want to put precedent in the market. And I would strongly suggest, it's reasonably pretty easy to get an AFSL license. Strongly suggest you can go own there. At CloudTech, we're going regulation first. We've got all of our licenses in place. We're going to launch our stablecoin Aussie dollar first, sometimes in September or October. And I think the final point was the future of blockchain. It's actually not blockchain. The future of blockchain is outcomes. And I heard this from a very knowledgeable person at blockchain this week. People want a pizza, to riff off something that you were saying earlier on. People want a pizza delivered to their house. They don't want a podcast on wood-fired stoves, right? They want outcomes. So we're trying to build the outcomes for everybody. They say you've got to leave them wanting more, so I will draw it to a close. Thank you very much for listening to me for a few minutes.
Thank you very much. Now for our penultimate guest, we've got Tim from MemeCon.
Right, how are we doing? Quick show of hands, how many of you have got meme coins? You can confess, go on. Right, okay. This is really some takeaways and reflections from MemeCon in Lisbon. We came out of stealth just at the conference for a project we're working on called GameFi Arena, which I won't show you today. But I want to give you some takeaways from the actual conference. Have I got my friend who's pushing buttons? Fantastic. Right. Oh, okay. There was a quote there that says, meme coins are NFTs without pictures. And that's from Zeneca. Now, the problem is, if you've got NFTs and there's nothing behind them other than pictures, it's just hot air. And, I mean, how many of you honestly think meme coins are a sort of a B-movie version of a shitcoin? Be honest. Right, again, yeah, okay. All right. I actually thought that, I have to say, as well. But, just moving on very quickly, but the markets talk for themselves. And you've got the likes of, I mean, WIF, I mean, crazy as it is, launched in November last year, now valued at 2.7 billion. Insane. A dog with a pink hat. It's great, it's lovely, it's fun, it's cuddly. But when you look at things like Dogecoin at the top, there's Tremp, which is 106 million. You can look at the number of holders there. It's all about an engaging message, the supporting community, and there's no ZK snarks in sight. All right? When it comes to the retail adoption, which is going to be that main sort of September time onwards probably, we're going to have people looking for Taylor Swift's cat because they recognize Taylor Swift, right? And the Taylor Swift's cat, one of them is actually found itself on the Solana blockchain, for example. And one of the key things is there's so much AI out there that's easily accessible. It means that every single one of us can engage with Taylor Swift's cat. We can put memes out there ourselves. So just moving on. So just to give a sense of the market, this is recent data, all right? 2,200 curated coins on CoinMarketCap. Pump Fun, how many of you heard of Pump.fun? Okay, this is a no-code platform for meme producers, meme production. 13th of May, 19,000 meme coins were released. 19,000. Now that's insane, all right? And it just shows where this market really is. Now, of course, we always talk about Wayne Lambo. The reality of a lot of crypto market is it's about the bucks, realistically in crypto, right? But for memes, it's a 2001 used Honda Civic. This was at MemeCon. You'll see I don't know if you can see it there, there's the number plate with SOL. They drove it from London down to Lisbon, right? And it was supposed to be, I mean, you know, I've got a lot of respect that they did that. But the reality of this style of meme, for example, if we just move to the next slide, please, is if you can see that, this is the used car chart. It peaked at MemeCon and it's come back down since then. And this is the reality of a lot of the meme space that's going on. So just next one here. So the key thing is, I mean, you know, with memes, it's all about ease of access. It's engaging. And what is going on? There's incredible shilling going on at the moment for memes. At this conference, there were 5,000 people. right? All talking about memes plus NFTs. It was part of an NFT conference. And the amount of shilling that was going on, it was the usual stuff about community, 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 and message, aren't we funny, isn't it great? It's NFTs that's just been condensed. There's a lot of it's got nothing behind it other than just that messaging community. And the amount of aggressive shilling going on is insane. Next slide, please. But there are some quality projects. How many of you have heard of Crypto Banter? How many of you watched that channel? Okay, good guys, right? They were there. We had a lot of conversations with them. They're doing some good stuff. They have launched Gummy. How many of you have got Gummy tokens? Okay, a few of us. All right, okay, perfect. They launched a community-based token, no tokens for themselves, purely for the community. They've also supported a project called Tucker. How many of you have heard of Tucker? Tucker Carlson. It's a satire cartoon TV show based on Tucker Carlson, but they talk about crypto. So they've done a partnership between all three, and the idea is that if you own Tucker, you'll get an airdrop of Gummy, for example. So there's blending of DeFi coming into memes, so that it actually presents much more utility and engagement. Because fundamentally, having been at Lisbon, 5,000 people talking about memes, it's Darwinian economics. And that's the overall conclusion. That's 5 minutes. Thank you.
Much. So for our last presentation today, we've got Ji Yang and Vivian from Be Drunk.
I promise I'll be quick. Okay, so I'm Vivian, and we. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm Vivian, and we produce Asian version Backlist podcast, and we run it a couple of months, and so I think our numbers is quite impressive. So I'm here today and just let you guys know, and we are here if you guys who want to broaden your influences from the English communities to the Chinese-speaking communities, and we are here to help. And we always want to cooperate with some, no matter you are the VCs, you are the project founders, or you are the lawyers, and who want to creating some content and to educating more users and let more people to know about your ideas. And definitely we are here to help. And the last thing, next slide please. I'm here to give us the airdrop. We work very closely with the Be Drunk communities, and the meme coin will be launched on the base chain. And it's called Be Drunk. So B is base, drunk, obviously it's drunk. So no, so if any of you who's like the drinkings, no matter the wines, whiskeys, or the beers, we are here. We are the crypto drinking communities. And simply just scan this QR code, and you will go for and you will find a Twitter post, and then just simply find one of your photos, which when you are, no matter while you are drinking or you're tipsy, no matter what, and cover your face with that cat, and post that photos on the Twitter. Just ping us, just ping Be Drunk, and they will DM you and ask you for your wallet address, and you will got your airdrop after they sorry, and you will get your. I know they are funny, so yeah, they wrote a lot of the good memes about drunk. Anyway. So the drunk token will be pre-mint on the late of this month. So you will got your 100,000 Be Drunk airdrop after the pre-mint down. So I hope everybody enjoy the Be Drunk, and I hope everybody enjoy our communities. And we will be here. And so if you have any questions, we'll be here. Thank you.
So it's a nice lead into drinks. So just a couple of last hygiene items before we finish up for tonight. So we've got a few upcoming events, 18th of June in Melbourne, next one. 25th of June in Brisbane, next one. 28th in Perth. These are all on Luma. Next slide. So I think previously it was on Meetup. So now if you need to sign up, just remember to sign into Luma. And then one last announcement from Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, Francis. Everybody, Francis. Woo! Take me to your leader. You go to Francis. All right. So much for sticking to time, Mark. It's 28 minutes after the hour, but that's all good. We had some great presentations today. We get into a very important part of these events, probably for some people the most important part, which is the networking. And I just wanted to thank everyone for joining in on this. It is Blockchain Week. There's a few events on tomorrow here at Stone and Chalk. AEM Algorithm, which is doing, yes, thank you, Donna. They've got an event here, thanks to Donna organizing it and bringing the crew here. So Jacob, Donna, others coming along as well. So it's going to be great. So check that out. Is it on the Blockchain Australia website, as Blockchain Week website? Okay, so if you go to blockchainweek.com.au, it's there, 1 to 2 p.m. tomorrow. So if you're looking for something during the day, maybe you crawl out of bed, after the hangover and stuff at 10, so crawl on over to here. And I just wanted to thank all the first-timers who have come to this event. Hands up if it's your first time at an Oz DeFi Association event. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. No, come on, Phil. Phil was just putting his hand up in solidarity. But I just want to thank you all for coming along. I've got Anna and Taylor up the back, who we do a lot of marketing work with. NotCentralised would not have its cool designs if it wasn't for them, and the website and the brand strategy and all these things I don't understand, but I know we need. So thank you very much for that. And I know there's a lot of folks that have traveled in. Greg up from Melbourne, thank you so much for joining us. And a lot of other folks that have come far and wide for, what's up? Good? Oh, sorry. Okay. I don't know what's being said back there, but thank you so much for all coming in and joining in with us. And right now we get to networking and connection. So thank you for joining. Go be drunk and get food.